We are live. So we are done with week one. Week one is in the books. I'm Steve M3TR1CS. That's your boy,
DJ TRIGGS.
And together we are Db8 Sports. And here we go. We got some few more games to review. We're looking at some games for week two, some waiver wire pickups, and you'll be seeing our picks. And we got our segment 5 up for no debate. That is a booming segment, and can't wait to see what we got here. So good stuff, Triggs. With that, here we go, Triggs. So, yeah, we had some wild Monday Night Football action, and I definitely said when we had last night's show that even with Aaron Rodgers going down, I had this weird, sneaky feeling that that wasn't the last of the Jets, that somehow the Jets would fight through that game, and boy, did they.
Yeah. I don't know if it said more about the Jets or more about Buffalo, because I know the Jets defense is good and all, but Buffalo is supposed to be this high-powered offense, and they get to the playoffs and basically run through the East every year, at least for the last handful of years, and it's just like that. I don't know what that was last night.
Yeah, I was led on to believe that Dalton Kincaid was the second coming of Travis Kelce and Robert Gronkowski, and that drafting a tight end in the first round and putting out 12 personnel is going to win the Bills a Super Bowl. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't think, and again, you and I have gone over this. We don't even think he's the first. We don't think he's the second. We don't think he's the third. He might not even be the fourth or even fifth best tight end overall. And the Bills drafted this guy number one. Their offensive line stinks. And I mean, you're a guy that owns Stefon Diggs on at least one of your fantasy football teams. And I know there's some nice intermediate passes that he caught. But I felt last night, I don't think there was a single pass downfield that anyone caught for big time yardage.
No. The Gabe Davis, I have Gabe Davis on one of my benches, and I didn't like that pick in the first place, but I got him at such a good value that I had to pick him up, and I'm not really feeling it now. I thought about dropping him actually this week.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty big. I mean, I don't know if I would do that because, to be honest, I still think it does speak volumes about the secondary that the Jets have, both between Reed and Sauce Gardner. I think they have two excellent corners. And when you get to the point where you're late in the game and you're Stefon Diggs and you're frustrated and you're doing offensive PI, it just speaks volume of the coverage that Sauce Gardner sticks to you. So to me, we know what the big story of the Jets-Bills game is, but I think it was more glaring of how bad that Bills offense was between Josh Allen having 4 turnovers and not really being able to throw the ball downfield. And anytime that guy took off, he absolutely got clocked. I think they're doing the worst things possible for Josh Allen, and they have good pieces. I'm not saying Josh Allen's a bad quarterback, but I definitely think that Ken Dorsey needs to get out there ASAP, and they need a totally new offensive coordinator, probably an offensive head coach as well. I thought that was just awful and just absolutely terrible with how that offense ran.
Agreed. I completely agree. I don't know if they're just getting stale or stagnant or what's going on, but they have the exact same offensive pieces for the last couple of years. Gabe Davis,
Yep.
Why am I blanking? James Cook,
Dawson Knox,
Devontae Adams, and I mean they added a tight end. Yeah, Dawson Knox and Josh Allen. It's the same.
Yeah, and that offensive line still looks bad. I mean, just because you draft Dalton Kincaid doesn't mean that really makes your offensive line any better. And it still looked terrible, and still looked like Josh Allen was getting destroyed in the pocket. And it's just not a way that you're going to play winning football, and it's not going to hold up throughout the season. We just saw Aaron Rodgers go down immediately to start the game last night, and I really don't think if if they play like this going forward, Josh Allen's going to be soon to follow. We even saw a similar style of offense in the Indianapolis Colts and Anthony Richardson playing pretty much the same style of ball that Josh Allen played, and he couldn't make it through the game. Towards the end of that game, he got totally wrecked, and he was out. So I don't know how many hits it's going to take, but between the UCL injury that he had last season and all these hits, I think at some point it's going to add up, and he's not going to make it if this is how they want to play offense.
Yeah, I agree. That's just how it goes. I don't know. This game really didn't do very much for me. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers thing just kind of bummed it all out and kind of made you go, dang. Yeah. Especially as a Packer fan, like you don't want to see a guy get injured. Like we didn't want them to play well, but we didn't want him to get injured either. But yeah, the whole game as a whole, it was just like, it was cool that the Jets returned a touchdown in overtime, but
There were parts that I like, though. I mean, there were times where that I think Alan Lazard kind of plays like that big, almost like tight end kind of role. I like seeing that. Yep. There were some solid throws from Zach Wilson, like some really pinpoint, accurate darts with a lot of heat on them. And I give him credit. And it feels like Rodgers has definitely lent some of that knowledge on where you have to throw for accuracy and just make it so your player has the ability to make the catch, but the defender does not. So, like, I think there was one interception by Zach Wilson. But other than that, pretty solid. I mean, the throw to Garrett Wilson is maybe the greatest touchdown ever. That is a gorgeous pass that he threw. And to just stick it up him on one hand was absolutely amazing. That was a beautiful throw they threw.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was a great throw, but, like, it was a great catch. I mean, Wilson literally just put his hand up there and just stuck it. And then when he dropped, I was like, okay, he didn't get it. Oh, wait, he got it? Okay. All right.
Yep. Oh, exactly. A little bit of Antonio Freeman blast from the past against Minnesota from back in the day is kind of what that reminded me of. Yeah. So I thought that was a special pass, special catch. Exactly.
Al Michaels,
exactly.
Great call. Like, he's got it or whatever he said, but he was so confused. And then he pops up and he starts like walking to the end zone. Oh, love that.
Yeah, play. Exactly. Yeah. Just an absolute gorgeous play. Really love that. Love seeing that. And I love seeing the fight. And I love seeing that identity of the Jets, how like, I do feel that they operate best when they play solid defense. They know how to run the ball. They make big passes when they matter most. And I think that will lead to winning football. I mean, I know a lot of people want to beat up on the Jets and say that Dallas is going to come in next week and just obliterate them. But like with all those points that Dallas scored, there was not a single touchdown by Dak Prescott. Zach Wilson had a better offensive performance than Dak Prescott this past week. And I'll make the case too that at the end of the day, the running back core of the Jets is going to be just as strong as Tony Pollard carrying the rock for the Dallas Cowboys. So they both have really solid defenses. I just feel there's almost more versatility and there's more room for error with the Jets offense than there is with Dallas. If Dak just starts to get the yips and they create multiple turnovers and you can't get ahead and have Tony Pollard like really finish them off, there is a possibility that the Jets could win that game as well. Both their defenses are really good. So it's going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes on offense.
Yeah, I agree. I know we'll get into some of those games later, but
yes,
yeah, I don't know. The Jets are they're meh. I don't know what else to call them.
I know, but I just don't think everything is a loss with that team. I still think if you're a Dalvin Cook owner or a Breece Hall owner, Breece Hall had some amazing bursts in that game for like 40 to 80 yards each. And then you have some really nice Garrett Wilson catches. So they got some pieces there. I mean, we'll see how it happens. They do have a tough schedule. But, yeah, I don't think of them as, like, the worst team in the NFL. Like, I think there are a lot of other teams that are behind them at this point. So we'll see what we got there. We got a few more games to finish up from. Yeah, exactly. So we got a few more games to finish up from last week. So I guess one of the games we'll go over real quick. The Patriots and the Eagles. What do you think from this game, Triggs?
Mac Jones surprised me? Question mark?
Yeah, exactly. And we get to see like Kendrick Bourne come back, and he was a guy like a year or two ago who I thought truly was the best receiver on that team. I thought he had kind of a Randy Moss-esque about him, but I just felt like they didn't use him. They want to use more like speed receivers. And in this game, it really looks like they really chose to go with size. Whether it was Kendrick Bourne or Hunter Henry scoring those touchdowns, they chose to give Mac Jones big targets. So I think the fact that they're going more to that and less to speed, I think really suits Mac Jones's game well. And perhaps that's what Bill O'Brien noticed from Alabama, that they're trying to carry over with the Patriots now.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind. Kendrick Bourne did his thing. Zeke came in, got a couple carries. That made the offense kind of move and chug a little bit. But then on the other side, it really, really concerned me that DeAndre Swift got one carry. I was not expecting that at all.
That was the one reason why when it came to our draft that I just didn't like having to be forced to essentially pick those Philadelphia running backs in the middle, in the like 6 to 8 to 9 range of a 16-team draft. I just felt it was like too awkward and too expensive because you had Rashad Penny, you had all this talk about Kenneth Gainwell soaring up the depth chart. He is the most familiar guy there, being behind Miles Sanders last season. So you had some weird things going on with that run game. And plus, what's to say at some point when they really get close to the goal line that Jalen Hurts doesn't do that spearheaded Sirianni sneak into the end zone and takes those 6 points for himself. So I've always been leery of the Eagles running backs, and that even dates back to last season. So I just don't see the value there with those guys.
Yeah, same. I mean, Jalen Hurts did his thing. It was really good for fantasy owners that AJ Brown and wow, why am I blanking? Devontae Smith. They both got 10 targets each. I thought that was pretty stellar to keep both of those guys fed. Quez Watkins came out there and did some things. The Eagles offense just looks really good. Their defense is really good. They look like a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like moving forward, and we'll talk about this game next, I do feel like we're pretty much getting set up for yet another NFC championship game between the Eagles and the 49ers. They just clearly look like the two best teams in the NFC by a mile. So I do think Green Bay's got maybe something to say to that at some point. But I do think right now, straight up out of the gates, Philly maybe knocked off a little bit of rust, but other than that, they're looking pretty nice. And San Francisco just looks absolutely top notch. And for the UCL injury that Brock Purdy dealt with, man, it looks gone. And it really looks like we're moving forward to a Eagles 49ers NFC championship game yet again.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So let's go to that game. Let's go to the 49ers Steelers game. And I know I'm a guy that's high on the Steel Curtain City. I like my Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, even though I didn't get him Pat Freiermuth. But I know this game is somewhat of a blowout, but there are things that I really like from both these teams. Even losing, I still like the poise I saw with Kenny Pickett. That guy still throws with a lot of fire. They lost Deontay Johnson deep into this game. George Pickens still had times where he balled out as well as he could. He had a really nice catch that he almost had, but he was out of bounds near the goal line. San Francisco is a very exotic team whether it's San Francisco, Philly, or the Miami Dolphins, those are teams that you're not really used to playing against. They will attack you in ways that you just can't really prepare for. You can't prepare for Tyreek Hill speed. You can't prepare for this ambiguous triple option that the San Francisco 49ers present. And with everything that the Eagles have as weapons, it's very tough to play against that style of football. So, yeah, Pittsburgh took a loss. They took a hard loss, but I'm not really too worried about that team. It's one of the best defenses in the NFL with San Francisco. They have great pieces there. It's just a really solid squad that San Francisco has. And it wasn't even until they were up by a good amount that they chose to unleash Christian McCaffrey. And once Christian McCaffrey just went off, like, that was it. But like, it still was good to see that, like, both those teams just fought throughout the game. Like, they never really took their feet off the gas. And regardless of score, I still feel these are two of the most solid teams that we'll see in the NFL this season.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that Allen Robinson kind of came out of left field and led them in targets and catches. And I was like, all right, like, that's pretty cool. But the one thing that does concern me is that the ball got moved around a lot. To have Deontay Johnson and George Pickens and Allen Robinson, and George Pickens didn't really get as many yards and catches as we're used to. And he was kind of a high pick for a lot of people. Najee Harris, completely non-existent. But then again, they were down by 20, so he wasn't going to run the ball that much. So he could be good in the future. But it really concerned me that there were so many mouths to feed. And Kenny Pickett's not going to throw 40 times every game.
Yeah, I still think the goal of the Steelers is to find a way to get ahead early, hit those targets that you really like, whether it's Freiermuth, Robinson, or Pickens, and then really focus on putting the game away with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. And again, too, we saw it in this Niners game that Najee Harris is a really good pass catcher, especially in his rookie season. He really thrived at catching the football more than almost running the football. So that's kind of the style that I think they're going to use. They want Najee for more pass catching downs and Warren for more hard-headed hitting downs. So it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a hard one to hit. I mean, you're right about the Pickens thing about not having that value there early on for fantasy owners. And then we look at the San Francisco side, and yeah, I think the guy that was undervalued was Brandon Ayuk. He was that mystery player I was talking about yesterday. And Brandon Ayuk is flat out balling out. He's truly the only true wide receiver that Brock Purdy has as a 49er.
Yeah, they're just as advertised. I mean, Deebo Samuel did his thing, running the ball, catching the ball. Brandon Ayuk just torched them. George Kittle got his catches, got his touches. Christian McCaffrey basically blew the game apart, and Brock Purdy didn't have to do anything special.
Exactly. It feels like there's like that Brock Purdy swagger that we really saw at Iowa State is really starting to come to the forefront. I mean, he definitely has that good game plan that Shanahan writes up, but then you start to see a little ad lib, a little off the cuff kind of style that you should see out of your quarterback. And he definitely presented that on Sunday. So I really like what's going on there. Going back to our draft, I know I took Jared Goff up there, but part of me was thinking, hey, do I roll into the season with Kenny Pickett and Brock Purdy and play around with some of those 49er weapons like Ayuk? But I thought I had the ability to get Ayuk in round 4, and instead I took DJ Moore in round 3. And it totally feels like those guys are flipped. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens with DJ Moore, but man, it feels like Brandon Ayuk is easily up there with the guys in round 3 at this point, and could easily be up there with certain receivers drafted in round 2, even like the likes of like Chris Olave or Jalen Waddle. Like Brandon Ayuk has the case that he says, hey, I'm a wide receiver 1 And I truly have no competition for targets on my team outside of George Kittle. So that truly warrants at least a round 2 value.
I agree. Nothing more from me. I agree.
Exactly. So let's go to another team in their division. And well, it was a divisional matchup, but a team that people thought would make the playoffs. I think they would make the playoffs as well. But a total letdown in the Seattle Seahawks. Like, wow, that is clearly one of the most disappointing games we had from this past week.
Agreed. Like Geno Smith basically went back to regular Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet didn't really get very many touches. DK Metcalf basically non-existent, and then adding Jackson Smith and Jigba basically did nothing. Tyler Lockett did nothing. That offense looked really bad.
Yeah, like wow. Wow, that is shocking. I did not know that JSN was playing in this game. I know he had the wrist procedure not that long ago, so to actually put that guy out there is kind of shocking. But yeah, like man, it's a rough squad they got out there. I think now that there's a full season of tape on Geno Smith and how he operates that offense. I don't think it is really that good of a offense that they have. I think you're going to see more teams are going to try almost like this cover zero and almost like all out blitz strategy and get Geno Smith to panic. If he has a clean pocket, he is one of the better passers in the NFL. But if you can make that guy panic, I just don't think he's that good. And I'm kind of with you on the fact that I know he had a good season last year, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to be one of the bottom third of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, that makes it as simple and easy as cake. I mean, when you have three quote unquote top notch receivers and you can't get them the ball, that's on you.
Yep. That's pretty bad. And I know we hold Patrick Mahomes to that standard, especially right now without Travis Kelce. And if that's the case, then we absolutely need to hold Geno Smith to that because there's not a single day of the week where Geno Smith is better than Patrick Mahomes.
None. And yeah, the running game was basically meh. And that's usually what Seattle works off of is a lot of play action and making sure the box isn't going to be completely stacked. But I don't know. It just that whole game just shocked me. I mean, the Rams blew them out.
Yeah, and that's even another thing too is like if you're trying to stack the box to make Geno Smith panic, and then he decides to change the play into a running play, and then your running back runs into that stacked box of defenders who are really trying to take down Geno Smith, and instead they just take down the back. That's even worse, and that's even more reason to avoid Seahawks in fantasy until they show they can kind of figure this out. But yeah, pretty much a disaster there. The other side of the ball, though, pretty interesting. You got Matt Stafford, who didn't really have a touchdown, but man, he threw for over 300 yards. He's probably fully healthy right now to start the season. And good luck there with some of these receivers that are lesser known and still being able to run the ball fairly well.
How about two of the greatest names in wide receiver history with Tutu and Puka?
That's insane. That sounds like these are characters that you'd probably see in an anime. I like them.
Yeah, but they completely went off 100 yards each.
Yep, absolutely. And I saw a little bit of Puka Nacua in the preseason. There were some definite big plays that he made. And I go back to last season. Tutu Atwell was Baker Mayfield's favorite wide receiver for a hot minute that Baker was there. And I think Tutu Atwell also returns like punts or kicks, something like that. But even going back to his Louisville days, like this is a speedy receiver that can just kind of work and take the top off of defense. So I really like what they have there with Tutu, especially without having Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he kind of took that spot. Both guys got, I mean, Puka got 15 targets, which completely blew my mind. I'm sure a lot of people in fantasy are going to be trying to scoop up that guy off of waivers.
Exactly.
Just nuts.
Yeah, and especially too, like considering last season when Kupp got hurt at that point last season, it seemed like the guy who really gained Matthew Stafford's trust for that little bit of time was Ben Skoranek, and Ben Skoranek had no production whatsoever in this game. So pretty good look that they had there with Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. So looks good there. A little bit of action out of Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson, but yeah, Tutu and Puka really leading the ship on that one. So you got that there. You got some stuff going on at the running back position. We're going to save that, though. We're going to save that running back discussion with them for our waiver wire pickups and whatnot. So, yeah, cool stuff there. But with that, I think we are pretty much all wrapped up and pretty much all done with week one.
Yeah, week one is done.
Cool. So we got that. We are done with week one. We're on to week two. Yeah. So do we want to go over some games, or what are you thinking about at this point, Triggs?
Oh, we can go over games and put in our picks if you want.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's go ahead. So this Thursday, we have yet another Thursday night showdown, a rematch of last season at Lincoln Financial Field between the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles for the second time in 2 years. So with that, who you got?
Oh, I'm Philly all the way. Minnesota looked so bad this past week against Tampa. So I mean, until Philly can be stopped, then I'm going Philly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Philadelphia needed that tough game against a tough New England Patriots defense to really shake off that rust and really start putting their team in the right direction. And I mean, I think having that experience of the passing game that Mac Jones presented is going to give them more of a leg up of the more potent receiving core that the Vikings have than the Patriots. So I think that helps. I think that gets the Eagles ready for this. And I definitely think with them being outdoors with that tough Philadelphia crowd to really play against, I think Philadelphia is going to take care of this game. So I'm totally with you on that, and I'll pick Philadelphia as well. Yep. So there you go. We're both in on Philly. So we'll go on to the next game. We'll go to Philadelphia, or we'll go to Minnesota's opponent from the previous week in the Chicago Bears and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 12 o'clock start. Who you got with that game, Triggs?
Yeah. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
Tampa, they beat Minnesota, but they didn't look very good beating Minnesota. And I'm thinking Chicago's going to put something together and shut down Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I feel like the whole style of play with Tampa Bay is that short to intermediate game. And I think they're going to feel that going against Tampa is going to be like an easier Green Bay, where Tampa is going to provide that defense that basically Green Bay did, except Tampa Bay's offense is way worse than Green Bay's. So I think Chicago is going to be more of a diverse team. I think Green Bay was a pretty tough matchup for them to lead off with. And I'm with you on this. I think this is absolutely a game that Chicago can head south and get a win off of. So I like you on that. They are the underdog, but I like the value there, and I just like the overall team. And want to go back to our previous week. I was a little bummed out that this morning your guy, Roshan Johnson, did not get the scepter for Angry Runs of the Week, and they gave it to Baker Mayfield. Oh, Man, Roshan Johnson totally deserved it, man. That was the angriest hit. I watched that whole Vikings Bucks game, and there was nothing I saw of Baker Mayfield that looked like an angry run. The Roshan Johnson, even in a loss, looked like one of the best runs of the entire Week 1 slate. So yeah, like I like it, and I think we're going to see more of that this week. And for Lovie Smith to be not Lovie Smith, for the Bucks head coach to be one who's notoriously staunch against the run, to see that success that you saw out of Minnesota in the selective amount of plays that they did run the ball against them, I think Roshan Johnson's going to get the job done this week.
Agreed. I'm all in on Roshan Johnson.
Totally, man. Totally. So with that, we got to go up north, and also at 12 o'clock. Unfortunately, we got to go with the Bills, who we've discussed, and they are going up against my Las Vegas Raiders. This is quite the spread in Vegas when it comes to this matchup. But who are you thinking on this one, Triggs?
This might be the first time that we disagree, because I'm getting a bounce back for Buffalo. Las Vegas. Wow, I actually typed them in here as Oakland. Whoops. Las Vegas. They looked okay, but I'm thinking Buffalo got smacked in the face with the whole Jets scenario, and they might come out a little angry. And hopefully that offense does some stuff. And I'm not really sure if Las Vegas has anyone that can shut down Stephon Diggs.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm sitting with it. Unfortunately, I'm picking Buffalo in this one as well. It's for the fact that our secondary isn't up there with the levels of Reed and Sauce Gardner. For the fact that, like, we're going to provide a pass rush, but our secondary can't get it done, which leads me to believe that there's going to be Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs just kind of running amok and being wide open in the middle of the field. So you got that. And I think it showed too that, like, you need to also have a solid linebacker to, like, just kind of come in hot out of the middle, out of that backfield, and really provide that pressure that you're not really expecting. And linebacker has totally been a position of concern for the Raiders, and it's not there yet. So with all that going on, also probably going into this game without Jacoby Myers and the offense having to take another change of the works, I think Buffalo gets this done. And I think they're going to realize that they don't have to have as tough a day sledding against a defense that's as oppressive as the Jets.
10-4. I agree.
Yep. So with that, we're going to another 12 o'clock game. This time a divisional match-off in the AFC North. We got the Ravens and the Bengals. We'll see if this is a game where we actually diverge on picks or not. So who are you thinking on this one, Triggs?
So Cincinnati looked really bad.
They did
80-some yards from Burrow, and I don't know if he's fully healthy yet. So
right.
I have to go with Baltimore because I know they're fully – well, except J.K. Dobbins, but Gus Edwards and those boys can – I mean, Dobbins has been hurt like every year he's been in the league. So I think Baltimore is going to run away with this one.
Yeah, and I even feel like in that Texans game, I mean, I felt like the Texans were a better team than people expected. And I think that helps Baltimore kind of warm up into the season. And there were parts of that game that I still felt Baltimore could get better at. There wasn't enough OBJ in that game. Even the run game could have done more, and without J.K. Dobbins, like, they still have Melvin Gordon on this team. I feel like that offensive line could protect better, and I feel like they can figure it out. Maybe they get Mark Andrews back, and maybe they run some 12 personnel between Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So I just feel like there's more signs of improvement with Baltimore on what they want to do moving forward. Whereas, like, Cincinnati against Cleveland, that was their best foot forward. They rocked Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, not much of Tyler Boyd. They don't have a tight end. But Joe Burrow did everything possible against the Cleveland Browns and didn't do much. And Baltimore is going to have a defense that can ride with the best of them. So I definitely see Baltimore shutting down Cincinnati. I know this is a road game. They're picking the Bengals as the favorites, but I just don't think this is close. I think this is going to be a runaway for Baltimore, and I think they are a much, much better team than the Bengals.
Wow. We are 4 for 4 on agreeing here. We got to get some game that we're not agreeing on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at our next 2 games for us to pick, and it's I don't know. It's probably going to be a little tough for us to veer astray. Well, let's see what happens here. We'll go to the south of the AFC, a home game for the Tennessee Titans hosting the LA Chargers. So who are you thinking on this one, Triggs?
Gotta follow myself. The Chargers. Sure. I mean, Austin Eckler basically did Austin Eckler things. Justin Herbert obviously does his thing. I don't think Tennessee has enough offensive power to keep up, and their defense isn't good enough to stop the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I did like how their defense played against the Saints, but gosh, to be honest, I don't even know if we talked about this game, or if we did, it just wasn't worth it. Honestly, I do think Ryan Tannehill, and I'm gonna throw him under the bus, but between Ryan Tannehill and Derek Carr, they are both some of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. They turn over the ball, they panic. They don't really know how to like move the ball forward. And unfortunately, the best piece that I think the Titans have is a guy that I have now and I like in Tajay Sharp. I feel like, honestly, like he's a Jahmyr Gibbs, but probably on a worse offense. I thought DeAndre Hopkins did nothing. Marshawn Lattimore stuck to him like glue, like absolute glue. So we'll see what the Chargers do on defense, but in order for the Chargers to lose, it took the best offense in the NFL to take them down. Like, that was probably the best offensive showing in the entire NFL this past week, was the LA Chargers and the Miami Dolphins. So I know this game's kind of almost a pick 'em, but man, I think the Chargers are an excellent team, and even if they play like somewhat defense, I still think they can run away with this game.
Same.
So yeah, yep.
Same.
So we are 5 for 5, exactly. And the Chargers got a lot of weapons, and I was actually
it's almost scary.
It is. It's almost scary. Like, for Josh Palmer to be the number 4 receiver on that team, that tells you something. They really got weapons there. They're just absolutely loaded. Joshua Kelly looks like he's a spitting image clone of Austin Eckler. So the way we talk about Bijan Robinson, I think, needs to apply to Austin Eckler. If you have Austin Eckler and Josh Kelly and you think that's a game that you can just tear off, play them both. Play them both. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to get at least one touchdown from either of the guys, and that offense is just insane. So, man, I think that might be a team that you and I regret for like not picking into the playoffs. I don't know exactly how we both went on that, but man, I was incredibly impressed with the Chargers this past week. So, yeah, good stuff there. So let's go to another 12 o'clock game. This time up north in the Great Lakes. We got the Seattle Seahawks going to Ford Field and the Detroit Lions. So with this, who are you taking on this one, Triggs?
Okay. I think this might be the one where we differ.
Okay.
But I think there's going to be a big letdown from the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Where everything went right, everything went wrong for Kansas City. Kansas City wasn't hitting on all cylinders. And I think Seattle, who also wasn't hitting on all cylinders, gets a comeback game against Detroit.
Okay, so with this one, I'm absolutely going to go with Detroit, and we will differ on this. for the reason that it is at home. And I feel like with this game at Detroit, I feel like that offense starts to figure it out again. This was the game last year that occurred early in the season. I remember this was like maybe a week 3, week 4 game. There were the remnants of that hurricane working its way through Pennsylvania. I actually had Jalen Hurts for fantasy, along with my favorite wide receiver, Zay Jones. And they were playing in the monsoon of the remnants of the hurricane. And this was going on at Lincoln Financial. So I'm not going to play two guys in an absolute monsoon. So I had to figure out what other options I had out there. So I went to the waiver wire. I acquired Jared Goff, and he unloaded and torched the Seattle Seahawks. I think that was almost 400 yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns last season. So with that, I mean, I know there was no Devin Witherspoon back then, but apparently Devin Witherspoon wasn't that good against receivers that we don't even know that play for the LA Rams. So for that reason, I'm going with Detroit. I'm also going with Detroit because I feel there's going to be more Jahmyr Gibbs. There's going to be more ways to use them. I feel like Sam Laporta steps up even more Brock Wright. Maybe they do some more 12 personnel. But that offensive line is no joke. They can really run a hot knife through butter with those guys. And that defense really showed up against Kansas City. So I think they're going to square off for this. They'll be ready for the Seahawks. They're going to utilize some of those methods that the Rams utilized last week, and they're going to figure it out. They're going to play well. And I do like Detroit for this game.
Understandable. I understand.
There we go. So we finally veered and picked a separate game. So there we go. So let's go to another 12 o'clock game. Let's stay indoors, but we'll go to the state of Texas, a divisional showdown between the Colts and the Texans. Who you like on this one, Triggs?
Believe it or not, the Houston Texans. I really liked how their wide receiver duo showed up with Woods and Collins.
Nico Collins?
Nico Collins,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the way they played, they looked like an actual offense for a little bit. Whereas in Indy, it kind of looked like it was all Richardson and hope for the best.
Yeah, and I still feel like, I mean, I know they're on different levels, they're not there yet, but I still feel like Houston's going to present some of those problems that the Jacksonville Jaguars presented last week. And I feel like that defense is going to be even more smothering than Jacksonville's was last week with Josh Allen against Anthony Richardson. So I still feel like they got some heavy hitters on defense, and they're able to get the job done. They have a nice run game between Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce. Dalton Schultz is a great tight end. So you got some nice things going on there. I think this is a team that's going to start putting the pieces together as time goes along. This might be a game, too. We don't know if Anthony Richardson will be available, if they do go with Gardner Minshew, which isn't as scary to face off against. So, yeah, I think this is C.J. Stroud, their head coach, and I think this is the first win of the season for the Houston Texans.
I agreed.
Yes, sir. Yeah, with there, that's
we're
no
back
debate.
on the same page.
We're back on the same page. How about that? So we'll stay within their division as well. I like it. And we're going to the state of Florida with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we just discussed, hosting those Kansas City Chiefs, who now, within the last 24 hours, signed Chandler Jones to a one-year deal. So now Chandler Jones is back in the mix of that defense. And we know how this playoff game resumed last year. But now, who do you like in this matchup?
I'm going with the offense that looked better because normally this kind of matchup comes down to offenses. I'm going with Jacksonville because they lit it up, and Kansas City looks like they don't know who to throw the ball to.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And again, everyone knows that my least favorite football player in the NFL is Kadarius Toney. And for that, I am with you again with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I feel like there's just so many ways that offense can roll, especially with having a totally dominant receiver in Calvin Ridley. Yes, Travis Kelce could be in this game, and pretty good stuff for you pointing that out, Brett. So that is a real possibility now, having Travis Kelce, now having Chandler Jones. But I do feel like there's extra motivation for the fact that they lost this game last season in the playoffs. This was the game that bounced them out. I think this is totally the game that the Jaguars have circled on their calendar and said, we have to play our best ball of the year in this game. So we'll see. Josh Allen definitely needs to step up and play some really good defense and really give that offensive line some fits. So that's I think that's going to happen. We'll see what happens in this game, but that's a really tight game to pick. Yeah, it is almost a pick 'em. The Chiefs are a somewhat sizable favorite beyond the pick 'em, but the spread of this game is still within 3 points. It's pretty interesting, but yeah, I think we just see that team step up, and I think the Jaguars' offensive line is going to say, "Hey, we need to focus more on Chandler Jones, stepping him up. If that means bringing in Tank Bigsby more for some more unchecked rusher blocking, then so be it." I mean, I think there's going to be more plays where they run Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne in this game. So I think they're going to build a really solid game plan for this, and I like Jacksonville to win this game.
And 4. Who we got next?
Who we got next? We got an interesting one here. We got both teams coming off a victory, but I think one team truly looks much better than the other. A little weird on the spread. Vegas has both of these teams laying down more money than actually winning in order to win your bet. And that is the Packers going down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. So
there was only one way to go, and that is Green Bay. That defense completely showed up, completely dominated that game against Chicago. Yeah. I don't think Desmond Ritter's that good, and the running game, the Green Bay Packers have always been like bad against the run, but if you can't throw the ball because Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, and those guys are back there waiting for you, they could probably go into man and just tee off on running backs. So yeah, I'm going with Green Bay.
I think this even gets to the point too that if they even see that like Bijan Robinson starts to run in the backfield pre-snap, they might even put Jair Alexander on Bijan and just say, "Hey, shadow that guy, make sure he doesn't go anywhere once he catches the ball." And I think that's the way it goes. I mean, I'm not afraid of Kyle Pitts. I think you're right. You could put Rasul Douglas on Kenyon Drake and force Desmond Ridder to see if he can get it there. And until he proves to you that he can, it's just not going to happen. I just think this is a truly one-dimensional team. And what we saw in week 1 between Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, I think will actually start to fade. I think you will start to see teams begin to play that running game more aggressively. And again, you might actually have more of a shadow coverage going on when Bijan is peeling out in backfield. So I think we're going to start to see a much worse Atlanta Falcons team. And boy, it hurts me to say it, but of all 4 teams possibly moving forward into the season, this might actually be the worst team in that division. I think Carolina has the ability to step up. We already saw a win out of Tampa Bay, and we know what the New Orleans Saints bring. So this is a possible letdown in a team that had some really high hopes going into the season, even though they got that victory. I just think it doesn't speak much, and they're going up against a really solid opponent in the Green Bay Packers this week. So exactly. There we go.
And I mean, the Packers looked really, really good on both sides of the football, including special teams.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So coming up next, we're gonna go West Coast. Gonna start working these 3 o'clock slot games. We got the West Coast. We got the Rams hosting the Niners. Pretty sure this gave you a quick one for both of us.
Yep. San Francisco.
Yep. Yep. That is easily one of the best teams in the NFL. So I'm picking the Niners as well. Not much we have to say about that game. I think LA really falls back to earth on this one, and the Niners get it done yet again. So let's go to Arizona hosting the Giants. Arizona looked okay against Washington, but not that great. Who are you thinking? And then the Giants just put up an egg against the Cowboys. So with that, which one of these somewhat disappointing teams are you picking, Triggs?
I think this is a pretty simple one. Arizona's on a backup quarterback, and they don't really look good. So I'm going to go with the Giants.
Yeah, I'm picking this as a bounce back game too. Cardinals defense is not like the Cowboys defense. I think the Giants really come back to showing who they are. I think Darren Waller is going to have an absolute monstrous game. We're going to figure out what is going on with that receiving core in the Giants this week. So for those people out there like me who have, man, I'm blanking on the name. But the receiver they drafted this year from Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt, I wouldn't just be too quick to let go of that guy. I think we're going to understand what's happening this week. So good stuff. Let's go. Yeah, exactly. So with that, let's stay out west. We got the Commanders of Washington going to the Denver Broncos. Who are we thinking on this one this week?
I am going with the Commanders because your boy Howell is out there doing damage.
Nice. I do like that. I do like the way Sam Howell's playing. He's got kind of that Brock Purdy kind of swagger with him. Jahan Dotson's his guy. But I saw this team firsthand last week, and basically, if they tell Will Lutz to go Lutz himself out the door, I think they go with a new kicker. That team is still really solid. I'm going with the Denver Broncos at home in elevation.
What?
And I'm going to deviate from you, and I will go with Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos.
Man, now I got to change the graphic. What in the world?
I know. You got to change that graphic there. But I feel like this is a team that if they shut down Jahan Dotson, that's it. And Pat Surtain totally took care of Devontae Adams last week. And I mean, I like my guy De'Ami Brown, but is a combination of De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson. I don't know if Terry McLaurin's healthy, but is that combination as solid as Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers? I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say that's going to be a much easier time for that secondary, the Denver Broncos, and then just stop the run game, which they absolutely know how to do. That's going to be one of the best rush defenses in the NFL this year. So, yeah, I'm definitely going Denver at home in elevation this week.
Spicy.
Yes, sir. There we go. We finally got another split. We'll see if we have another split here. Interesting game in the afternoon. Kind of shocking they did this, but maybe this was from previous information they had. We have those New York Jets going to Big D to face off the Dallas Cowboys. This is quite the heavy spread, and especially points differing in this game. So who you got on this one, Triggs?
You better not split with me. The Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. Yeah, I was kicking this around, but I kind of think of it this way: is the Jets' offense at this point in time, without Aaron Rodgers, is it any different from what the New York Giants have last week? Well, what do you think about that, Triggs? Is there really that much of a difference between the offense of the New York Giants and the New York Jets?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? The Giants have a better run game. Well,
Okay.
maybe. We're not really sure yet. But
Sure.
the tight end, they definitely have better.
Yep.
But wide receivers is going to be with the Jets. But
Yep.
Daniel Jones is better than Zach Wilson, so it might be a pick 'em.
Exactly. So that's why I'm feeling that the Jets are so close in talent offensively to the Giants that I think Dallas can get this done. I think you're going to see more of a bounce back game from Dak Prescott. I think he's going to play more aggressively. I think we're going to see more production out of CeeDee Lamb, whereas the previous week the Giants' top threats were, or actually, sorry, from the Jets game against Buffalo, their primary threats were outside. Now the primary threat is in the center of the field with CeeDee Lamb. This is one of the few teams in the NFL that has their dominant number one receiver in the slot. So I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be a massive problem for the Jets this game. I will see if Sauce Gardner shadows him, but I think this is totally different from what the Jets went up against with Buffalo last week. So I like Dallas in this one.
Easy peasy.
There we go. There we go. Good stuff. So we get to the Sunday night game, and we got the New England Patriots hosting the Miami Dolphins. Where are we at on this one, Triggs?
So I gave Mac Jones's praise, and we talked about Kendrick Bourne and doing his thing, but
Yep.
Tyreek Hill basically lit a team on fire with his feet.
Yes.
So
He
Miami.
Did. Yeah, I don't think New England can keep pace with this team. I think, too, we're also going to see a Miami defense really step up, and they're not going against a high-octane offense like the LA Chargers. So I think with that, New England falls back to earth. They play a tough defense in Miami. And I think the other thing, too, is like we didn't really see a big game from Jalen Waddle because the Chargers had no one that could keep up with Tyreek Hill. If they start to focus on some coverage against Tyreek Hill, and they probably have experience against him from being a Chief as well, then I think Jalen Waddle really steps up in this game. So I know that River Craycraft had a nice game in the slot, but I really think this is going to be more of a Jalen Waddle game against the Patriots. So I like that. The spread's 2.5. I think Miami can absolutely torch that, maybe get it to double-digit points. So I'm with you on that, and let's go with the Dolphins. So, yeah.
I mean,
so a few games left
nuts.
here, and this is, yeah, it is. I'll tell you what's nuts, and something that I really don't like because I feel like this is the NFL ruining its own viewership and scheduling games against itself when it absolutely shouldn't be doing that. So we have 2 Monday Night Football games, and one of these Monday Night Football games should not even be in prime time. The game should absolutely be at 12 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, where it's just regional coverage with these two cities. And that is the Saints against the Panthers. That is not a Monday Night Football game at all.
Nope. I think that was more of like, hey, we got this number one. Boom, here you go. Because no one's going to watch Carolina in 7 weeks. Not even Carolina fans.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I'm with you on this. Like, I still don't get why in the world they took Bryce Young. He just does not look like an NFL quarterback. He doesn't even look like he's up to size or anything like that. And for Adam Thielen not catching bomb passes from Kirk Cousins to catching 5-yard passes from Bryce Young, it looks terrible. And I love the mindset that you have that New Orleans is going to get better as time progresses. So we're going to see more out of that offense. We're going to see how they want to use Taysom Hill alongside Derek Carr, what other things they can come up with there. But yeah, like it's pretty shocking that this game is almost a pick 'em. But I'm going the Saints on this one. So yeah,
easy.
And then
No way they lose.
And then exactly. And then we go an hour later into the night on Monday night. So when we're here next week for Monday Night Football on our Monday night show, we're actually going to have 2 NFL games going on at the same time. It's going to be totally weird, totally bizarre. It's going to be pretty crazy. But for that, our final game of the night of week 2 is going to be the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be my Cleveland Browns against my Pittsburgh Steelers. So with that, which one are you picking against, Triggs? Or which one are you going with?
I am going to say big time bounce back game by the Pittsburgh Steelers because Cleveland might have got their win last week.
Yeah. So I was kind of shocked. You were going this way. I was expecting you to maybe go Cleveland, but yeah, I'm along the same train of thought that like, hey, I think Cincinnati is much worse than what people thought out of the gates. And for that, I do think this is totally a bounce back game for Pittsburgh. We know the familiarity they have with Cleveland. It already is a really good defense. And I do think this is a bounce back game. I mean, I still saw poise. I still saw some pepper out of those throws that Kenny Pickett threw. And now knowing that going into this game, like now it is the George Pickens show, I think that really steps up. I still think there's going to be more solid Freiermuth play. And we've seen what Deshaun Watson looks like when he gets rattled, and it's not that good. So I think there's going to be more TJ Watt stepping up defensively. I think this is definitely a bounce back game for Pittsburgh. This game is in Pittsburgh like it was last week. So we know those fans there are going to be really feisty and testy for a win, especially against a divisional opponent. So kind of shocked through the underdog, but you and I both are going with the underdog and the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game in a nice bounce back. So
true story.
Yeah. I know you're not a Kenny Pickett fan, Brett, but I am. I literally attached my fantasy football season trailer to the Pickett to Pickens connection. So we'll see what happens there. But I like these guys. I do think that 49er game was a fluke, but I think it was a great way to start your season against a really tough opponent. So there we go. We got all our week 2 games in the books. So we like that. So I think we're looking good there. And I think it's time for a new segment, Triggs. What do you got cooking?
A new segment? No way. Oh, man. This is the most exciting part of the day. I'm even going to switch our faces here. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Ba-da-ba. We're going to put you on the big board. We're putting you in prime time. We're putting all the lights on you. We're even gonna send out a new brand logo. Ready for this?
Wow. It's
time for the best thing ever. It's the 5-up for no debate fantasy football. It is go time.
Beautiful.
Are you ready for this, Mr. Metrics?
I was born ready for this, DJ Triggs. Throw it at me, pal.
All right. So I know if James is watching, he's gonna love the first question I got for you because it's right down his alley of poking fun at metrics.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we got.
Let's see. Let's go with question number 1. Do the Raiders move on from Hunter Renfrow? He's a 27-year-old, received 0 targets in the first game for the first time in his 5-year career during the 17-16 victory over the Broncos. He only logged 13 offensive snaps, and he's only got a dead cap hold of $5 million if they cut him.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is probably possibly a trade, like the old conventional NBA term we always hear of sign and trade kind of thing. I don't know how that would apply to him, but I do think that he absolutely gets dealt. And I'm shocked that he hasn't gotten dealt already. And to me, that almost concerns me of like, hey, is there even really a market out there for him? But I do think there are teams out there, like we talked about the Buffalo Bills. They don't really have a slot receiver. You need that more dominant slot receiver. Unfortunately for us, we just lost our slot receiver in Jacoby Myers for this upcoming game, so that's a problem. But yeah, I was kind of shocked that we didn't even move on from him from the moment we got Jacoby Myers. We drafted a speedy, shifty receiver from the University of Cincinnati. So I'm already kind of shocked that we haven't moved on from Hunter Renfrow. I thought it was going to happen back in like March or April. And the fact that it still hasn't happened to this day to me is shocking.
Nice. Nice. All right. So that was the easy one. All
I
right.
like it.
Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Number 2. In PPR, there are two PPR doesn't even really matter. There's 2 quarterbacks who are tied for 4th with 20.9 points in week 1. I'm talking about Justin Herbert, who threw for 228 yards, a touchdown, and ran for a touchdown. And believe it or not, Indianapolis quarterback Anthony Richardson, also 223 yards, a touchdown, and also ran for a touchdown. Herbert plays Tennessee, and Richardson plays Houston. Who has the bigger week this week?
Yeah, I'm definitely going with Justin Herbert. I feel like the biggest probably takeaway that you can take from that Chargers game against Miami, that wild one, is that offensive line that Justin Herbert has might be the best in the NFL. Their run blocking is phenomenal. It's always gave you a hot knife through butter with Joshua Kelly and Hunter Renfrow. I mean, not Hunter Renfrow, stuck on that topic, but Austin Eckler. But even the protection that Justin Herbert had back there up until that game ended on a wild sack is pretty insane. But it feels like just all those weapons that they have out there, there's more familiarity with them. There's more comfort with them. There's more weapons than the weapons that Anthony Richardson has. And like Tennessee going up against LA is going to be a lot scarier than Tennessee going up against the New Orleans Saints. You're going from a quarterback that you know that is going to basically just let loose and not really know how to play football in the second half of a game, to a quarterback that if you don't keep tabs on him in the second part of a game, he's going to tear you to shreds in Justin Herbert. So I think Herbert really steps up. The other thing too is we don't even know if Anthony Richardson will really play in this game, considering his injury at the end of last week against Jacksonville. So for that, we're going Justin Herbert.
Nice. Nice. So number 3 in the 5 up for no debate with Steve Metrics, number 3. So there's been a lot of especially after week 1, we have a bunch of different names in the top 10 of quarterbacks. One of the surprises is ranked 9th, and that is Brock Purdy. Do you think Brock Purdy? Wow. Do you think Brock Purdy gives us another top 10 fantasy week against the Rams?
Against the Rams, considering what they did against Seattle, is kind of interesting because we thought that Geno Smith would have a somewhat solid day, even though he didn't. But I do think we're going to see another big day out of Brock Purdy. I think it's interesting too because now he's really showcasing that running ability, and now again this goes back to my fantasy draft where now I am having certain regrets at certain points in the draft and how I feel like maybe I overstepped and went way too early on Jared Goff and Sam Laporta because I wanted to prevent certain people from having the firepower from the air side of the game between Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I do feel that Brock Purdy is really going to showcase those talents with how he can run the ball. He's got that swagger like he did at Iowa State. So I do really like Brock Purdy. And And that was the thing that I had at the back of my mind was, what if this is a season where Jared Goff almost tapers off and then Brock Purdy rises? So we had Brock Purdy pretty much positioned as maybe like the 20th, maybe the mid-teen range of projecting where he's going to do in terms of fantasy this season. But I think this is something that we could be looking at a guy who's going to be top 10, maybe on the verge of being an elite bona fide quarterback.
Oh, wow. Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Absolutely.
So we had two kind of backup running backs. Tyler Algier ranked 4th in PPR with 24 points. He had 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 targets for 19 yards in the receiving game. And then Rashawn Johnson, my guy, ranked 8th, 17 points. He had 20 yards on the ground, a touchdown, but he also had 7 targets receiving-wise. Who do you feel has a better week? Tyler Algier plays Green Bay. Rashawn Johnson plays Tampa.
Yeah, I'm going Rashawn Johnson. The reason against Tyler Algier is because, like we discussed earlier, they're going to need Bijan to do more pass-catching ability, and it is going to be a tough sledding running the football against the Green Bay Packers, no matter who it is. So that's how they're going to have to do this, is even put more Bijan Robinson out there into this game. And then the way I saw Alexander Mattison run against that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, I love seeing more out of Rashawn Johnson. I felt last week he didn't really have too much tread that he had to put on his tires, even though they didn't get that victory against Green Bay. But I think this week we really start to see more of that guy. I think he does get revenge on having an angry run this week, and maybe gets you a little more fantasy points for your team this week, Triggs.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm going to Roshan Boya this week.
Yeah, I love it, man. Go get it.
I'm hilarious. But
yes.
And then number 5, this one's going to be a fun one. So we had 2 wide receivers, one ranked 3rd and one ranked 5th. Jacoby Myers of your Raiders, he's owned in like 80% of leagues, like in all of fantasy, and Kendrick Bourne was only owned in 3% of leagues. For the long run, or the long haul, I should say, who's the better wide receiver?
For the entire course of a season? Boy, so I'm going to say definitely this week there's just no Jacoby Myers. There might not be Jacoby Myers for 2 weeks. But then there's the other factor in this, which is how long is Jimmy Garoppolo on the field? How long does he stay healthy for? What happens to the chemistry if he comes off the field? Is it going to be Brian Hoyer? Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson? How do those guys interact with Devontae Adams? Is Brian Hoyer going to stick to the Patriots motif and stick with Jacoby Myers? Or does he just go for the best wide receiver in Devontae Adams? Honestly, I don't know. I really saw no Brian Hoyer in the preseason. I don't know what it looks like. But I do know that Aiden Hutchinson, that guy likes to sling it, and he's not going to be captain checkdown. So I know that he would want to go more for a Devontae Adams, and I think he would want to go for more of the younger targets, like a Michael Myers, my favorite guy. So it's kind of interesting on this one, but since Jacoby Myers is that guy that's kind of dominating the slot, he's kind of working his way all around the field. I do have a soft spot for Kendrick Bourne. He's definitely been one of those guys. A few years ago, he was almost our most bona fide wide receiver coming into that draft for last season. I think he ranked up there with the likes of a DeAndre Hopkins. So that was pretty surprising for a guy that I really didn't know much about in Kendrick Bourne. But I don't know, like I still don't fully understand what's going on with the Patriots offense. Are they going to stick with Bourne? Are they going to do more with Devontae Parker? They still have that speed demon and Tyquan Thornton. I've heard some talk. Maybe you can help me out on this receiver. I don't know. He's like, I think his nickname is like Lil Mac or something. But there's like this certain receiver on the Patriots that's like really, really up and coming. Talked about. There's some real serious buzz about this guy. I don't know his name exactly, but I really wonder if that guy gets kind of like put into the offense a little bit more throughout the season. So this is a real tough one. I mean, if you're out there and you need a big threat wide receiver, I think you do go out there and get Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, if you can find the guy, that would be interesting. I would be intrigued on seeing what that target share is against the Patriots because, I mean, against the Eagles that they played last week, because that might tell us something. And it's going to tell us too, because when it comes to the Eagles, they're very stout against the run, but they tend to have some gaps in defense in the secondary. So Philly is a team you can have success throwing against. And I would think that when it comes to easier matchups, and now that we're getting more out of the beginning of the season, the offenses are going to have more of an easier time going forward. So I think you're going to see more of those traits that you see out of the success that New England had in week 1. You're going to see that going forward, moving forward. So I think you're going to see something like this more out of the Patriots. I think you are going to see more Kendrick Bourne. And because of already injury, you have weird concerns that can happen with Garoppolo. You don't really know what's going on. We do have a lot more moving pieces with the Raiders targets in terms of who's out there. We've seen virtually no Michael Mayer, and we know he's going to be a big piece at some point. I think you probably have more ability to succeed in fantasy with Kendrick Bourne. Do we know who this mystery receiver is?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't find.
Yeah, if any of our viewers
see Demario Douglas and Matthew Slater.
Oh man, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's who we're talking about here. I'll bring up my my phone here and see who we can find on this depth chart. But this guy was really talked about. He might be on the practice squad. That's maybe a place where this guy is, and maybe more teams don't really take a swipe at it because they really don't know this team as well. I'm bringing up our lads at the moment. They're one of my favorites for looking at depth charts, and our fantasy depth tracker is powered off of that as well. So yeah, it might be this Kayshon Boutte. He was drafted in the 6th round. It might be that guy. I'm not totally sure. Let's see who else they have here on this practice squad. I really like seeing that. How about that? Our guy Malik Cunningham is back on the practice squad. That I really like. So I really like seeing that. I'm glad he's back there. Yeah, looks like Jalen Reagor is down there as well. Boy, I'm having a hard time finding who this guy is. Yeah, we might need help on this one if there's someone out there who could do a deep dive. But yeah, they drafted both Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte in the 6th round of this year's draft. So I don't really know who it is. But that's a tough one. And again, too, they also have Juju Smith-Schuster there. So it's a very interesting one. But Kendrick Bourne is on this lineup. He is a starter. It is him, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. That makes me concerned too. Like, where is Tyquan Thornton? Did that guy already get hurt or something, or is he? I don't know exactly where this guy is, but Tyquan Thornton was one of their best
he's
receivers.
On IR.
Oh, gotcha. Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's what's going on here. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this guy's name is. We'll have to do some research and post it online to our Twitter page and whatnot and see what we can figure out with this guy. So there you go.
Yeah. But hey, that was five up for debate.
Yes, sir.
Also,
I like it.
If I don't know how many you got, but who's on your waiver wire this week?
Yeah, so this one's an interesting one. I do think there are some really interesting plays out here. There are some certain players that are available that you can get in virtually all leagues, and there's also a certain tight end I really like that is not getting talked about. But there was a pretty big injury to a team that really likes to go to the tight end, and already on a team that is kind of looking for targets. So that tight end that you can get out there is on the Denver Broncos, and that is Adam Troutman. He already had a fairly okay week last week in splitting time with Greg Dulcich, but now Greg Dulcich is hurt. He's got a pulled hamstring. We know how Russell Wilson loves to work in those tight ends. Adam Troutman is probably, man, honestly, he might be the number one tight end out there. I mean, you can get guys like Hayden Hurst or Hunter Henry or Logan Thomas, but just kind of knowing how that offense works, I would feel really comfortable with Adam Troutman along with whatever guys you got. So I think he's a really solid pickup that you can get for fantasy this week. And
Okay.
and I got some.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I got some.
Between the two of them,
Yeah.
it was 7 targets. So that's pretty solid for a tight end.
Yeah, that is definitely solid for a tight end moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how much production Zach Ertz had against the Commanders last week, but we know that offense isn't really much to shake a stick at out of the Cardinals. But I definitely feel there are threats coming out of Denver. So I like Troutman. I like the ability that Denver should have to advance that ball against Washington. And I think you can get something special out of it as long as Wilson's getting that protection in the pocket. And Wilson looked much better in the pocket in this game than he did in the preseason. So they definitely did some signings. They made some fixes. But I think that Denver offensive line is getting much better too. So I give them a lot of credit. But I got some other picks. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. This is a
here we go. Let's go. Exactly.
Minute.
It's a metrics minute. So we have we have 3 really interesting situations going on here. 2 of these 3 are running backs. So let's go to your team, Triggs, with the Baltimore Ravens losing J.K. Dobbins. Justice Hill comes in. They do have a very interesting backfield. Melvin Gordon is still there, and despite the fumbles, I still like the way Melvin Gordon runs the ball. But if you can get Justice Hill, get him. He's a guy out there that's very much open there in leagues. It is shocking that J.K. Dobbins owners did not own Justice Hill as well. So make them pay for that. Get their guy, get Justice Hill, get Gus Edwards to handcuff him, and then boom, there you go. You have the entire Baltimore Ravens backfield. So that's pretty interesting. We'll go to another team that has a running back issue. And this is almost in disrespect. This might be a guy you get and stash on your bench, but this is a guy that I actually acquired off of waivers. I didn't know who he was, and then I dropped him for Tyjae Spears, and this guy ended up having an amazing game against the Seattle Seahawks, and that's Kyren Williams. So this guy recorded 2 touchdowns. He's more of an all-around tailback as opposed to the power that Cam Akers shows. And there is definite conflict going on with Cam Akers and Sean McVay. This guy basically requested a trade from Sean McVay, held out certain games last season, was not traded, and then came back and kind of fought for his starting role. Very bizarre situation there. The other thing, I don't know if anyone can confirm this, but I did get this report from Twitter that at some point in this game, Cam Akers spits in the face of Sean McVay. If that's true, he is done. You do not take that respect from a player. You absolutely relegate that guy as hard as you can, and you move forward with the guys you got. You need to set the tone, and you cannot accept that as a person. You just cannot. So with that, I would absolutely get Kyren Williams. The only downside here is that this is against the San Francisco 49ers, and they did shut down Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren pretty easily this past week. So whether it's a tailback or the power back, you're not really getting success. So for that, I would get Kyren Williams, but I would stash the guy. If you really need running backs, though, you probably go Justice Hill first, then Kyren Williams. But it is what it is, and however you want to stack it, that's your call. So there you go. You got those two guys. You got Adam Troutman. And I think the final one that I want to point out here is Rashid Shaheed of the New Orleans Saints. This is a guy who's already a starting wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. And it felt like he had, yes, exactly, that's your guy. And this is the guy that is going to point out the bona fide number, almost like discrepancy of Chris Olave, and probably Chris Olave's bona fide number will start to take a hit. I think it starts to take more of a hit from Shaheed, and then it really will take a hit in a few weeks when Alvin Kamara comes back. So as long as Michael Thomas is there, as long as Juwan Johnson's there, I think they're still kind of figuring out the pieces with how Taysom Hill integrates into this offense. And I think that's what you're going to see. But Rashid Shaheed basically, to me, ran more open routes downfield than Chris Olave. I started to see more Chris Olave in the center of the field, but I saw plenty of plays where Rashid Shaheed just took off. And the way he crossed in that end zone to get that touchdown early in that game was very impressive. Even better with Rashid Shaheed is he returns kicks. And he almost returned one of those kicks last week to the house. He got tripped up about midway, middle of the field. But Rashid Shaheed is a very sneaky play. I always love those guys who can return kicks in addition to what they do, because if they do take it to the house, man, they will get you a pretty penny of points. So go out there, get Rashid Shaheed. The fact that he's challenging Chris Olave for almost the number one option of Derek Carr is incredibly impressive. So I think of all the wide receivers that were out there, he was a receiver that I kind of had at the back of my mind for our draft, but I felt there was more value out of Jalen Hyatt, but I think I'm wrong. I do think that there's still something going on there with the Giants offense we don't know about. And we already knew going into this season that Rashid Shaheed was going to be one of those good targets for Derek Carr, as he was last season for Andy Dalton. So I think Rashid Shaheed, out of anyone, should be your number one overall pick, regardless of your team, regardless if you need help at wide receiver or if you're looking for another position. I think Shaheed is just too much of a talent that you can't pass up on. I think this is a really good guy. Plus, he's a slot receiver. So whereas Mike Thomas and Chris Olave are outside, I know they kind of split it and share it, but Rashid Shaheed working that middle of the field is insane. So you almost get everything good going on with Rashid Shaheed. Is slot receiver, a guy that goes deep, a guy that returns kicks, a guy that had a good season last year with a different quarterback. Boy, the signs just keep pointing up for Rashid Shaheed. So that guy is definitely my number one overall waiver pickup this week. Yes.
Question. Is he your most Bono player on the waiver wire?
On the waiver wire, absolutely. He has to be the most Bono player. I don't think it's Kyren Williams, because that's more of like a performance based on circumstance of the stuff that we've discussed, and the fact that Kyren Williams will more than likely fall back to earth this week. But looking forward and going into the season, especially of this week, it has to be Rashid Shaheed. His Bono is going to improve, and he's going to have at least an average elite value at the wide receiver position. So what he did last week, I think, was kind of a preview of what we're going to get from him moving forward. So I really like Rashid Shaheed. I mean, I know another receiver we'll point out real quick, Allen Robinson. So losing Deontay Johnson, we do have a change of pace with Pittsburgh against Cleveland this week. Another slot guy you can get for good value. So yeah, you got some nice 2 slot receivers, and I think that's something that fantasy needs more of is guys who have good slot receiver production, because it is a position that's growing in today's NFL, and you can get some real mismatches. And I benefited largely out of that last week with Zay Flowers. So I think Allen Robinson working the slot is going to benefit a lot of fantasy owners.
Is that your waivers for the week?
That is my 5 fantasy waiver pickups for the week, along with my most Bono waiver pickup. But I do have a different Bono player for the week, though. A certain player that
I got a new.
Yes. Okay, here we go. I love these graphics.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Pause.
Pause button.
We have
let him cook. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
Let
absolutely gorgeous.
Who's your most Bono player this week?
Who is my most Bono player this week? So the most Bono player this week, I am going with CD Lamb in his matchup this week against the New York Jets. I think he will absolutely have a day. I think he will present something out of the slot that you're not familiar with if you're Sauce Gardner and those Jets. And I do think that defense of Dallas really steps up. They keep the ball in their possession. I think you're going to see a huge fantasy day for those CD Lamb fantasy owners. And it's going to be kind of reminiscent of what we saw last week of the performance of Tyreek Hill. It may not be a 200-point production, but I think you're going to get at least 2 to 3 touchdowns out of CD Lamb this week. Boom. There you go. That's how you do it. That's no debate.
Make sure you guys check out the fantasy depth tracker at nodebatesports.com, because that's where you find the Bono value players.
Exactly. And the beautiful part that we're going to be doing about this, and I'll be having more time working on this tomorrow, is that you're going to see those values change. So you're going to see how those values of players from week 1 changes with the values they had from last season. And some of these newer guys, these rookies like Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs and the group, they're going to move up. So they don't have that value from last season, but they are going to gain that value into this season. So we're going to see how those guys play. We're going to see how they interact with their rosters. And we're going to see that movement all throughout the season.
That's no debate.
Yes, sir. That's no debate. And we'll see the most intriguing Bono player out there is Triggs's call of Chris Olave. And we're going to see Chris Olave was at basically about a 0. Is he going to move up, or is he going to move down, or does he stick at 0? That is going to be definitely probably the most interesting valued player, I think, moving forward, because he was up there at a level 2 round pick for fantasy. And I think there's a lot of good reasons supporting that. Maybe he's not as valuable as that moving forward, especially with guys like Brandon Ayuk going in like round 4 and round 5, who to me are clearly round 2 and might even justify round 1. So there you go, man. That's no debate. That's right. Bona fide value.
I was really against bringing him up in round 2.
Yeah, it hurts. I mean, that's like the one player that I had regrets with, and it hurt me to the point that I didn't draft that player, and my opponent did, and he stuck it to me with that player this week, and I lost my matchup because of that. If I have Brandon Ayuk or I don't play against Brandon Ayuk, I win my matchup this week. So it hurt. It absolutely hurts, and it's showing what the power that San Francisco has moving forward, knowing their receiver, knowing their receiving core, knowing how they want to work the offense, and knowing that Brock Purdy is their guy. So I just love the trajectory that the 49ers have moving forward. So there we go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
So
there we go. We got
any more knowledge.
I think we're good. I think we got a lot of stuff. We'll be posting videos about each team's matchup from this previous week. What kind of numbers and info you can take away from it. And we'll be posting that, bona fide numbers, all that good stuff. Hey, I'm wearing green today, so you know I'm going to be busting out Marvin the Martian and my love for him as the ref in the original Space Jam. So there you go. That's my guy, Marvin the Martian.
Nice.
Yes. What's your game of the day, Triggs?
Let's check. Let's see what happens. Well, you know what? It wasn't much of a debate today because we agreed on a lot of the game.
Yeah. I think we only missed on like 2.
But it's still a family feud.
Oh, Family Feud. Wow. Is this like hosted by Louis oh man, I'm blanking on his name. But
Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson. I love Louis Anderson. Is Louis Anderson hosting in that video game?
He might be, because that is I can't remember. This game is old as dirt. 1991.
Wow. Yeah, that could even be before Louis Anderson. I know there was could be Jonathan, I forgot his name. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He's a pretty good comic as well. But yeah, Louis Anderson, rest in peace, man. And I loved him. I don't know if you caught it, the FX series Baskets. If you ever get a chance, check out Louis Anderson in Baskets. He actually plays the mother of Zach Galifianakis. So he's a guy playing the role of a woman, and he's hilarious. And basically, this is a family trying to run their own circus. Just total shenanigans between Louis Anderson and Zach Galifianakis. Catch it on FX. I guarantee it's on Hulu, Hulu Plus. But you'll absolutely love it. So good stuff. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, James. I don't know what's going on there with the depth tracker on a Microsoft browser. That would probably be Edge. And you do have to see it on Chrome. So it is powered by Google Sheets.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. What's up?
It works. I'm on Edge right now. I'm using
and you're
Edge.
seeing it.
It definitely works on Edge.
Okay. All right, James. Yeah, this might be an IT issue. Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, that might be an IT issue for you, James. But yeah, we went with Google Sheets because it was a stronger option than posting a shared drive to Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Office and 365, and not everyone has that. So that's why we went with Google Sheets, because it is more an open source platform for displaying data. And it is what we like and what we will continue to go with. So it just, it works. So we will continue using Google Chrome and Google Sheets. Yeah,
I'm definitely able to use it. I'm on Microsoft Edge right now, and it's in the middle of the page. I can cycle through everything.
Yeah. So I think you might have something going on your end with that one, James. But yeah, I've seen the tracker on mobile. I've seen it on Chrome. I haven't used Edge or Firefox, but yeah, definitely we're going to stick with Google Sheets. It just worked actually a lot better than using Office 365 and trying to share that with people. So yeah, we're going to stick with Google Sheets on this one, James, for now. I mean, I think eventually we'll do something where it's just fully posted to the website, and eventually it won't be a spreadsheet thing. But for now, it is what it is, and it's what we're going to be working with. So there we go. Yeah, so that's what we got. So I think that's pretty good for what we got for a show. We'll be seeing you guys next week, 7 o'clock. Mondays, Tuesdays, we'll be wrapping up all the games on Mondays going forward. So this was a little tough one, me trying to do some watching of every game kind of thing, but we're going to figure things out moving forward, and we're going to get it right. So with that, I'm Steve M3TR1CS. That's your boy,
DJ TRIGGS.
There you go. And together, we are No Debate Sports, and that's No Debate. We'll see you next time.